Hello and welcome to the Nerdiest podcast on Spotify. This is episode 7 of the Nerdiest podcast you can find on Spotify. And today I've got an awesome episode centered around Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the DC universe, and things that I want to see in the new Woman of Tomorrow 2026 film. Let's get into it. Let's go. So in today's episode of the Nerdiest podcast, I want to talk about one of the best comic books I have ever read. It's one of the most recent comic books I've ever read, and in fact, I recently finished it a few hours ago, like literally as of recording this. I have just closed the book and have finished it fully for the first time. The comic book that I'm talking about, for those who do not know, it's the Tom King Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. It's a comic book. It's a Supergirl, story. It's a story about Supergirl, who is the cousin of Superman, obviously Clark Kent, the famous one. Supergirl is such a character in of herself. Like, she's such a separate character from Superman. And I feel like she has the potential to be so great. And I'm so excited for the new Supergirl 2026 Woman of Tomorrow film, which takes inspiration directly from this film, from this comic. I mean, the titles are the same, right? So, Woman of Tomorrow. And this is the best comic, I think, for Supergirl to take inspiration from in a big blockbuster film. And, first of all, it's the first Supergirl film, I think, ever made? Or, the first made in ages, right? So, this is exciting. This is exciting because we've just had James Gunn's Superman, which started off James Gunn's new DC cinematic universe. And it was a banger. We had Lex Luthor, we've had Peacemaker, we've had all these things established already. And it's so exciting to be a DC fan going forward into 2026 because we have Supergirl to look forward to, but we also have the whole universe to look forward to, if that makes sense. So you could say, I'm excited for this film and this film, but I'm excited for the whole universe to come because I know it's going to be some really good stuff. Let's get into the subject of this episode. This episode is all about Supergirl. It's all about Woman of Tomorrow. The hype starts now. Previously we talked about Doomsday and how the teasers for that have dropped, and it's, building up hype for its release in about little under a year, right? So Supergirl obviously comes out in 2026. As the time of recording this, it is going to be, it is the day before New Year's Eve, right? Yeah, I think so. So tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and then we got 2026. So we ain't got much long to wait for this film. So I wanted to read this comic for a while. So Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. Obviously Tom King, the big powerhouse of comic creation that he is. He's well known. He's made a name for himself for sure. But I wanted to read this comic before the film because obviously this is what the film is being inspired. No, this is what the film is pulling stuff from this book, and I wanted to go into the film with some of the knowledge of what to expect, right? And also the book just looks so appealing to me. It just looks so beautiful. The color looks great. The story looks awesome. And it is. Having read the book, it is super good. And if you haven't read the book, go pick it up before the film comes out because it will set you up with such hype. It will set you up with such expectations that I hope they deliver on. But so let's get into let's get into some things that I would like to see implemented from the comic into the film. So as I stated earlier, I did read the comic for the first time. What were my initial thoughts on the book? I thought it was really good. I thought the pacing was really good. I thought the characters were really there's two main characters, minus a dog and a horse, I guess. If you haven't read the book, click off of this podcast because I will be talking about it in depth. And obviously nobody's seen the film yet, so no spoilers for that, but I might predict some things that might, prop up in the film. So, yeah, but I will only talk about things in the book, so I won't talk about leaks or spoilers, only things that's been announced, for this film. So yeah, let's just get into some things that I want to see in Woman of Tomorrow from this book. So I had no prior knowledge of, Supergirl. I obviously knew she was cousins to Kal-El, and she was a sort of female version of the Superman, right? But she's Supergirl. But she's so much more than that in this book, and it fleshes out her character to be more than just like the female version of Superman. Like, I don't like using that word at all. Like, that's just not what this character is. She's her own powerhouse. She's her own hero. She has her own motives. She has her own roles, I guess. She obviously is a hero, but she is a hero with style. And she's sort of like a warrior, and she is one of the last remaining people from Krypton, right? Before it blew up. So, the book follows a pair of girls, obviously one being Supergirl, and the other being Ruth. I think her name is Ruth, spelled differently to like how you would usually spell it, but it's like Ruthie, I don't know, Ruth, I think I'm saying that right, hopefully. But yeah, so Ruth's dad was assassinated, and she's had vengeance. She wants to seize vengeance for her father's death. It's the only thing that she lives for, and she sort of convinces Supergirl to assist in getting revenge. So the big part of the book is that Ruth narrates the book. She fills in the dialogue, and she has her own. The whole book is her telling her story from when she was younger, as she's writing the story when she's older, if that makes sense. So she's writing the story down as an older woman, but the story takes place when she was younger with Supergirl. And they sort of track down the big bad who eliminated her father, and they go across loads of different universes and planets and stuff. And I think it's a beautiful story, and definitely worth checking out if you can. Even for the artwork alone, the style is just so predominant, and it seizes the book for me. It just is the cherry on top. Every issue of the book is different, and I liked it for that. It was something to look forward to. Every issue is something new, and a new premise, and not a new plot. Obviously the plot is overarching, so you're going to have the same plot throughout, but every issue is a new approach to that plot, right? So I liked it for that. But for the film, so the medium of comics and the medium of films, it's hard to sometimes, comic book movies, some are good, some are bad, obviously, but it's hard to take a comic book so well known, so loved, and turn it into a big 2-hour blockbuster movie for millions to watch. And to do it right, I think that's even harder, because you're taking art on a page, a still bit of art. Obviously there's panels and stuff that make it move, but you're taking art and putting it onto a moving picture. It's going to be quite, and obviously this art is so beautiful. but it's going to be a challenge, and I hope they do it justice, you know. So let's get into it. So the book, as I said, was narrated by Ruth. Is narrated by Ruth. So the journey goes through, and she's narrating what happened, and she's recollecting what happened to the reader. And I think that's a really good way of obviously showing the story and telling the storytelling. But I don't think it would work in a Supergirl film. So this is the one thing that I hope is changed for Woman of Tomorrow, is I hope Ruth isn't narrating. Obviously, I wouldn't mind it, but I hope for this film, because it works in a comic, you need that constant narrator, but it wouldn't work in a film. I've seen the trailer for Woman of Tomorrow, and it looks great. And Ruth is in that trailer, so obviously she is going to be in the film. I feel like it wouldn't be Woman of Tomorrow without her. She's a big part of this comic, and she's a big part of the film, I think. So I would prefer it to just be a Supergirl story. Like, I don't think it needs that narration. Obviously, it would be a reference to the original source material if they did do that. But I mean, that would be cool. I'm not complaining if they do go that way, but it works in a book. For a film, for a 2-hour long film, however long it is, it probably won't be as effective as if it was in a book, right? So yeah, the narrating I don't think is necessary for a film. You could tell a story a lot easier in a film. But if they do that, I don't mind. Obviously, that is cool. That would be awesome to see. And obviously, it would be older Ruth narrating over the film. It wouldn't be young Ruth. It would be older Ruth. So, yeah. Another factor that I really can't wait to see is Krypto. I can't wait to see Krypto. Obviously, he was so cool in Superman, but I feel like seeing him with, is her name Kara? What's her name? It's like Kara L? No, it's something like that. Supergirl. Her name, I forgot what it is. But yeah, Krypto was so cool in James Gunn's film. And the CGI of him was so cool. I can't wait to see him in this film. Obviously, he has a big storyline in this, being a very pivotal position. Spoiler alert, Krypto gets injured, and the whole story is Supergirl. He gets injured by the guy who kills Ruth's dad, so they both have a motive to go after the killer, but at the end it's revealed that she already cured Krypto and he was fine. She just wanted to go along to protect Ruth and to show Ruth that you don't need revenge, and because it will never go away, so you have to become something new. I think that was a beautiful ending, and I can't wait to see the adaptation in the films of that ending scene. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about some other things. Obviously we have Supergirl. She looks fantastic. The suit looks awesome. The trench coat, we need that. I want to see, cosmic Guardians of the Galaxy levels of creature design. I want to see ships that look something out of Star Wars. I want to see planets that look so alien and so cool. I want to see just so, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what I want to see. I want to see more of that. If James Gunn could have, he's not directing this film, but I feel like he does have creative, he has some creative input, I think. So I feel like he should put some of his Guardians knowledge and Guardians designs into this film, because it is very much a space sci-fi story, which I also think goes really well with, being in a movie and being in a big blockbuster, It's not in Metropolis. It's in outer space. You can do so much more with that, expanding the DC universe, You can put in planets that have never been seen on big screens before, you know. So I'm excited to see the whole world building of that. Obviously in the trailer there is Lobo. You could see Lobo. I'll get into Lobo in a little bit. Let's talk about Ruth and Supergirl's dynamic. I want their dynamic to feel sort of like Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us. I want them to be, you know, that whole dynamic. It's become so popular, you know. You got the young kid who asks loads of questions, and then you got the kid, and then you got the Supergirl who knows every answer but doesn't choose to answer them. She's sort of silent and cool and is powerful, right? She's a role model, right? That's what I want their dynamic to be, obviously. Yeah, I want it to be a lot more sort of realistic in the sense that it's not trying to be super, it's trying to be a bit grounded. I want it to be sort of a little bit less super than Superman, if that makes sense. So Superman 2025, one of my favorite films ever. It's going to be historic film. But I want this film to just feel a little less like superhero-y and more sort of real, you know. I felt like this is what the comic felt like. It felt real. It felt grounded, and it felt gritty. It felt stakes were high, you know. Yeah. So I want to see that dynamic, and I want to see Kara Zor-El. I think I'm saying her name wrong. I don't know what her name is. Supergirl. I want to see her shine. I want her to be the star of this movie. I don't really want Ruth to be narrating and being sort of overshadowing to Supergirl. I want to see the new Supergirl actor just shine in her role, because she needs to be on par with, you know, David Cornsweet's Superman. She needs to be on par. She needs to be able to match that, you know. I want to see sci-fi planets, sci-fi guns, sci-fi ships, planets that look crazy with crazy living creatures, dinosaurs, you know, stuff like that. And the trailer, yeah, it looks really good. So let's get into some other things. I want to see as many aliens as possible. I want to feel the vibe of space, you know. I want it to be not just a full CGI space. I want it to be practical effects as well, which we've seen in the Superman film. Speaking of Superman, would I like to see David Cornsweet's Superman in this film? It has been revealed by, I think James Gunn revealed by the actor of Supergirl that David Cornsweet's Superman and her Supergirl have a Kryptonian speaking scene where they just talk in Krypton. Krypton, obviously the planet of where they come from. They have their own language, so I'm assuming they learned a way to speak it. Obviously we've seen that in Superman with his parents. So obviously we're going to have subtitles, and they're going to speak cousin to cousin and in their own language, which I can't wait to see. That's going to be so awesome. I love David Cornsweet's Superman. I love James Gunn's film. And if they do cross over in this film, it's just going to cement this as the super people, right? They're going to have their own films, but they need sort of each other to cement that, and they need to be together, because it's like the dynamic between Ruth and Supergirl. You need one so that the other one can thrive, right? So I don't want this film to have both of them fighting alongside. This is a Supergirl film, not Superman and Supergirl, you know. I want just Supergirl Ruth. I want her own journey of figuring stuff out. I would love a cameo of David Cornsweet, you know, talking in his language of, not David Cornsweet, Superman talking in Kryptonian. And yeah, I feel like that would be super cool to see. Just like flesh out these characters, give them feelings, give them trauma from when Krypton blew up. I keep saying Krypton as Crypto. Crypto's the dog, right? Yeah. No. The planet Krypton. Not yeah. Anyway, we're talking about Krypton, not Crypto. We're talking about Krypton. So, let's talk about Krypton. In this comic, there is a small segment nearing the end that goes through what Supergirl experienced when Krypton exploded and destroyed and blew up. So I think this whole segment of the comic is so beautiful and powerful. It's narrated by Ruth, and the narration is so beautiful. I'm gonna just talk about it. People, think that Krypton blew up in a day, and that was it. But it didn't. And so a city on Krypton was shielded by the blast. So, it was bubbled from the atmosphere, and people inside survived. But the rest of Krypton blew. But the bubbled lived for at least a few weeks. And obviously, Supergirl was on that little bubble of Krypton left, and she was building a wall to protect from when the bubble was destroyed. She was building a wall so that it could protect itself, so that they could save Krypton. The wall failed, I think, and she was put into a bubble. She didn't want to leave her family. She was 14, and she had to watch her whole planet die. She was sent off into a rocket. She had to say goodbye to her planet, to her father, and to her mother, who was already dying of poison. So it is a lot darker than the Superman's sort of origin to Earth, which is saying something, because Superman's origin to Earth was super sad. Obviously, his mother, his father sent him in a pod when he was a baby to Earth. But imagine being 14, seeing your planet blow up, being conscious, seeing your father say goodbye for the last time, seeing your mother die of poisoning. It's sad. And I hope they do it justice. I want to see it spread across the film. I don't want to see it at the start or at the end. I want to see it spread across the film, so it leaves you with a sort of overarching story of how Krypton fell. I would love to see, her emotions in those moments. I would love to see what Krypton would look like. We've seen it in the trailer. It looks super different from anything we've seen. Sort of modern, but it looks almost Egyptian, but like space Egyptians, it looks like almost. And it looks less of a sort of fantastical and more grounded, which I love, because we've seen in Superman 2025, the Kryptons wore white, right? They wore white, these massive white, epic, cool outfits. Krypton has been designed in comics loads of different ways, and in movies as well, loads of different ways. And I feel like this is a really cool way to design them and to interpretate them. They're not extravagant. They're sort of royal, and they have standards, and they look really quite cool. So yeah, I want to see Krypton's fall. Obviously, that is quite a quite sad and emotional moment for her character, but I feel like it's needed, and I feel like we are going to see it because it was in the trailer. But I want to see it. I want to see it spread across the film, and I want to see the pain, the trauma, and the life that Supergirl went through to get to this point in the comics and into the future, because it is something that she holds dear to her heart. And it would be awesome to see Krypton just in this DCU. I feel like setting up the DCU, you need to show some Krypton. You need to show where Superman came from. Obviously it's been destroyed now, so you won't get that in the future, but with these flashback scenes, you can set it up really cool. You know, you're building a new universe. You need to spread your wings and go crazy with it, you know? I'm that's probably what I'm most hyped for like I said earlier, is the future of the franchise, the future of the universe, the DC universe. It's something that I'm really interested in. Yeah. And yeah, so let's get into some other things that I would like to see in Woman of Tomorrow 2026. I want it to be just super epic and cool, and not visually, it doesn't have to be visually pleasing. I just want the story to work. The pacing to work, you know, I want it to do the comic justice. I think the worst case scenario would be that the film lacks what the comic had. If the comic is your source material, you can't really mess that up if it's such a good comic, right? Just take bits from the comic. Don't take all of it. Take the really good bits from the comic and use that as your baseline, and then spread out and do loads of different cool things. So obviously Superman isn't in the comic of Woman of Tomorrow. So that whole scene with David Cornsweet talking to Supergirl Millie Alcock, I think I said that wrong, but I think that's the actor's name for Supergirl. That whole scene wasn't in the comic, so that is something that is going to be original to the film, and I suspect it's not going to be completely faithful to the comics, which I don't mind. Obviously it's a film. You're going to have to change a lot of things to fit that format. The suit looks great. I probably said that already. The designs of everything looks great. Can't wait to see Krypton. Can't wait to see, you know, their dynamic between Ruth and Supergirl and the changes that they go throughout the film. Because that's one thing the book does really well, is they show their relationship develop into a really sweet and really quite masterful way. They met in a bar, obviously. Met in a bar, and Supergirl was not into what Ruth's adventure. She didn't want to go on to that adventure. But by the end of it, she was so willing to go along that she lied, obviously, about Krypto being well, so that she could teach Ruth about vengeance. I just really can't wait for this film. Let's talk quickly about Lobo. Now, Lobo has been revealed. Jason Momoa is playing him in the trailer. He was revealed very briefly, obviously, but I cannot wait for that. That is such a great casting. Obviously, Jason Momoa, he played Aquaman in Zack Snyder's Justice League and obviously the Aquaman films. But now he's playing Lobo, who, if you don't know, is like this crazy hillbilly sort of Ghost Rider character who goes around and doesn't have any feelings. He's sort of like an alien creature. He is just sort of like a messy. He's like the embodiment of not showering. He's like that type of character, if that makes sense. I don't know what I'm saying, but Lobo is such an interesting character, and to pair them with Supergirl. So first of all, Lobo wasn't in Woman of Tomorrow comic, wasn't in that. Obviously I wasn't expecting him to. It's Woman of Tomorrow, Supergirl story, but for a movie that you're setting up a universe, you need to add new characters. Obviously, this is the first time we've seen Jason Momoa as Lobo in the new DCU. You need to implement him, and you need to implement him really good to set his character off. And then you can do You can put him in other films, you could do his own film, his own show, whatever. You can do whatever with that once you set him up as a character. And obviously this is going to bring a lot more people from the comics into watch Woman of Tomorrow, right? People love Lobo. He's such an underrated DC character. He's like the Deadpool of DC, I like to say. Or like the Wolverine and Deadpool mixed. He's like Wolverine. But yeah, in the trailer he looks really cool. Like visually he looks awesome. Great casting choice. But I don't know what role he will play in this story, because the comic book story is very straightforward. It's an adventure between two people, and it's point A to point B. Very, it's not, obviously there's fillers, like loads of stuff happens in between that, but it's very it's very sort of like closed in between two people. Their relationship develops. There's nothing quite extravagant happening. There's no Lobo showing up and causing trouble. So I wonder what part of his role would be. Part of me wants to say he would be tracking down the big bad or Supergirl. I like to think that he's tracking down Supergirl for a reward or something, or something. He's doing something cosmic, something spacey, bounty hunter, or it's just like starting bar fights or something. But his role, yeah, that's what I'm excited for as well. His role in this film is going to be awesome. I bet they're going to do him justice. And, yeah. So the big bad of this film, that's something that I'm a little bit confused on. It hasn't really been revealed who's the big bad of this film yet. The big bad of the comics was, I'm going to butcher his name, but it's Krem of the Yellow Hills. He is the one who killed Ruth's dad when she was little and started this whole adventure. And he is the one who Ruth gets his vengeance on at the end of the book. Of those of you who have read the book, obviously know what I'm talking about. So they haven't, I don't think it's the same guy in the film, which is a bit unfortunate. He is a pretty cool character. He's well, he doesn't really have much going for him as a character. Like, he isn't really, for the most part, threatening in any way, because he's just sort of like this guy with a sword and arrow, and he has this sort of like he's sort of just like an ordinary guy, but that's what makes this film, this book brilliant, is because it's Supergirl and this little girl going after an ordinary guy. Like, Supergirl traveling across planets and things, just going after this guy. I think is the beautiful thing about it, is that she is willing to do that, but yeah, so it hasn't really been revealed who the big bad of the film is. I hope it's something a little bit grounded. Obviously in the trailer it looked like she was being surrounded by what seemed to be bounty hunters, or there are a group in the comics called the what they called. I'll just pull it up right now. They are sort of bounty hunter, the brigands, I can't really say that, I don't know. The brigands. And they are tracking down Ruth, they are a group of people who go around planets and destroy everything and take everything and enslave colonies, and they're basically not good news. So that's either them or bounty hunters in the trailer. I like to think it's the brigands, because that would be awesome. But it could be, Supergirl has a bounty on her head or something like that, and, they come to collect. Which would be an awesome dynamic, because you're chasing after the big bad, and then you're being also hunted by bounty hunters. Would be awesome. But I don't know who the big bad is. it could obviously be a reworked Krem. I don't know how you say his name. It could be a rework of his character, making him a little bit more menacing and more of a threatening character. Or it could be a new DC character, or it could be someone that we do know, someone that someone unexpected, right? But yeah, so that is Woman of Tomorrow. That is what I would like to see in Woman of Tomorrow. Let's talk about Man of Tomorrow. So Man of Tomorrow is the second James Gunn Superman film. And I think it's planned to come out in 2027. And it's been confirmed to have Brainiac as the main big bad of the film. And it's been confirmed that Superman will team up with Lex Luthor, which is very exciting because I love Lex Luthor in Superman, the first Superman. But will we see Supergirl in Man of Tomorrow? That is a possibility, and I'm fingers crossed that it does happen, because that would be awesome. I feel like Superman crossing over into Woman of Tomorrow is such a great move for the character, to develop them as cousins, to show the emotion and the grief that they both feel for Krypton. And I obviously just can't wait to see David Cornsweet in the Superman suit at any given time. Give me that man in his suit with the red cape. And yeah, I can't wait. I'm so excited for this film. Like, it's literally one of my, after James Gunn's Superman, I can't wait for more DC. I'm practically begging James Gunn to release more DC. I want a Batman, Wonder Woman. I want Brainiac. I want Martian Manhunter. Marvel has owned the movie scene. They have skyrocketed the box office with Avengers. Avengers Endgame. Avengers Infinity War. Those were massive hits. DC is on the up though. They had a few bad runs with the Justice League films, but now I feel like we are finally getting the DC content that we deserve as DC fans. Supergirl, Superman, Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Crypto. When have we ever said that? Like, when have we ever said, oh, we're getting a Supergirl film? No one's ever said that. And it's so exciting. Just to explore this universe is so exciting. I have full faith in the director, in the whole creative team on this film, that they will, after watching that trailer, it just looks so good. And after reading this book, I can't see how they can go wrong, because the trailer just emits this vibe from the book. They emit the same vibe, and that is just pure awesome and pure, I don't know, it's just like awesome, like Supergirl. This is awesome. You can't go wrong with a bit of Supergirl. So if you have not read Woman of Tomorrow, you have less than a year to read it. You have a few months to read it. Get onto it, read it, because it sets up the film, and it gives you something to expect from the film. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same, but the vibe of it is what I'm looking for in the film. I just want it to be good. I feel like it is going to be good, but if it's not, I'm not going to be very happy, because this comic is just perfection for this character. This character needed this comic because they were just being, so it's like Supergirl's in the shadow of Superman. But now I feel like Supergirl has her own shadow. She's not in the shadow of anybody. She's in the shadow of herself because she is now her own fully fleshed out character. And I was reading the other day the Death and Return of Superman omnibus, which I have. And in that book, Supergirl is just sort of like, she's there. She's not really projected as this sort of warrior type Supergirl from this Woman of Tomorrow comic. She's just a female Superman. That's what I gathered from that book. So in that book, Superman dies by the hands of Doomsday. Hence why it's called Superman Death and Return. And Supergirl, she takes the mantle of being Superman. Basically, that's what happens. But she's not Supergirl. She's Superman, but female. And she's with Lex Luthor. And I feel like that's just like, this book just makes her 10 times the character she was when in, the 90s and the 70s, the 80s. This character can be cool. This character is cool, and this character will be cool in the films. I have full hopes that they will deliver on this film. Obviously, there's some things that you can't expect with films. It's not going to be a one-to-one. Not a lot of people will read this comic. But it's not going to be a one-to-one interpretation, They're going to reference it, obviously, but it's going to be its own thing. And that, for that sake, I'm excited. I'm excited that it's going to be its own fresh thing. It's going to be so awesome. And I'd like to add as well, when I bought this book at the comic shop, the guy on the guy selling it to me said it was one of the best books he's ever read, and that it was definitely a treat, He liked it a lot and he recommended me reading it straight away. And that's what I did. I read it straight away, and it's been an awesome, awesome journey. The art is awesome. The story pacing is so good. The character development is so awesome. The relationships are so cool. And the bit at the end is so emotional. And it just rounds out the whole story really well. I won't spoil it. Go watch it for yourself. Woman of Tomorrow, Supergirl. And then when the film comes out, you can be prepared for what is going to happen, because it is going to be batshit nuts, I reckon, in that film. So, yeah. Get your hands on Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Read it. And, yeah, enjoy it, because this is going to be the last time you can read it before seeing the film. If you see the film and then read it, it's not actually reading it, in my opinion. It's like its own thing. You need to enjoy it as a comic and then watch the film and enjoy that as a film, right? So you can watch it after, but you need to watch it before, really, because it's the best time, right? It's the best time to read it. Yeah. So that has been Supergirl, DC, Superman. We've talked about Lobo. We've talked about things that I would like to see in Woman of Tomorrow, the new DC film coming out in 2026. I am hyped. It's got Krypto, it's got Krypton, it's got Ruth, it's got Supergirl, it's got Big Bad, it's got Lobo, it's got Superman. It's going to be awesome. It's so good to be a DC fan, and I'm so excited for the future of this franchise, of this company. You got comics, you got films, you got games coming out. It's going to be hype. I'm on the hype train for Supergirl. I hope you are too. I hope this podcast episode has ignited the flame of hype for you. And I hope that you can leave this episode, pick up your copy of Woman of Tomorrow and read it, indulge, and be excited, because you deserve to be hyped for a DC film, because we haven't had a good DC film. We haven't had a good 2 DC films back to back, for ages. We've had Superman. Now we're waiting on obviously Supergirl. If these 2 are good, that's going to confirm that DC are back, right? And then after these two, who knows, we could get another 2 Superman and another 2 Supergirl, Wonder Woman, 3 movies, Batman, 3 movies. It's exciting. It's exciting. I think you can tell that I'm probably way too excited and way too passionate about this. So I'm going to wrap this episode up right here. I hope you have enjoyed me yapping about Supergirl. It's kind of, all over the place, jambly. That's just how I talk. I talk way too fast, so I apologize. But yeah, that has been episode 7. Already episode 7. 3 away until episode 10. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to figure out something special to do on episode 10 of the Nerdiest podcast. But this has been episode 7. We've talked about Lobo. We've talked about Superman, Supergirl, crypto, and all that fun stuff. I can't wait for the film. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you in episode 8.